Welcome to the IBMS Lothian and Borders podcast.
Is there enough bagpipe in that? Hello, my name is Mike Gray and I'd like to welcome you to the IBMS Lothian and Borders branch podcast. What's all this about, you might ask? Well, for those of you listening who don't know, the Institute of Biomedical Science, which is the professional body for biomedical scientists in the UK, has branches in all corners of the country, and in the southeast of Scotland, where Edinburgh and the Borders sit, we have a branch. So this podcast was an idea from the branch committee to look at, in the first instance, at career stories of biomedical scientists. Why career stories? There is a lot of information out there on how to get into biomedical science, and there are some podcasts that focus on scientific topics. But from a people perspective, we often get very useful talks from senior individuals in the profession. And as interesting as they are, the committee hit upon the idea of listening to all levels of staff involved in biomedical science with the aim of capturing the stories of professionals you might not necessarily hear from, and to look at all stages of the career ladder. So each story, we hope, will be inspirational. Each story will have a message, and if anything, will highlight the myriad of ways that people get into biomedical science. So if you like stories and finding out about people, then stick around. What could possibly go wrong? Hello. So we're here with Siobhan Woodrow. So Siobhan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you. Yourself?
Right. Well, I'm fine. The sun's shining at least.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what it is you're actually doing at the moment? What job are you in at the moment?
So I'm a trainee specialist biomedical scientist with medical microbiology in NHS 5.
Great. So you're a microbiologist, or is it bacteriology and old money?
A bit of both. So we've got bacteriology, we do mycology, molecular now as well. So there's a big range of things that we do in the department.
You and I might confuse the listeners later on here because I'm an ex-bacteriologist.
Mm-hmm.
So we've at least got that in common to start off with. We can talk about gram stains or something, you know. Okay. If you go back right to the very, very beginning, and you're sitting in your house one day or wherever you're sitting, and you're making decisions about what you want to do for a living, how did this pop into your head?
Well, in high school it was very difficult to choose what sort of career path I wanted to go on. I was fairly decent at pretty much everything I tried, but there was not one subject that would kind of stand out to me. So I ended up going a totally different way. I was going down literature and film studies.
Right.
So after I realised that wasn't the sort of career path for me, I decided, right, I need to start a degree, and science in general was the route I was going down. So I applied for the Open University, and it was a very open science degree that I did, with the ability to follow a discipline a bit later on in the degree. So that's kind of how I ended up sort of going down the biological science route. And it was later that I found out about the IBMS, unfortunately, because it made things a lot easier.
So were you like a proto Quentin Tarantino when you were thinking about doing film studies and stuff like this?
Oh, it was American film studies in particular that I was interested in. So yeah, I applied for Aberystwyth University in Wales, and I got a place there. And that was to do American studies, which covered film, literature, history, culture, and things like that. And I deferred it because it was a going down to Wales. I thought I'll give myself a year out to get a bit of money and then make the trip down there for the 3-year degree. While I had that year, that was like a gap year, I took a job with Fife Council. I was working in the transportation department, and then that's when I realised, I don't think I want to make that travel down to Wales. I don't know if film studies is it's something I really enjoy, but in terms of the career prospects at the end of it, I wasn't convinced that was the right move, especially when I was starting to establish a career with Fife Council. Fife Council were great. They gave me a lot of opportunities, and had I wanted to go down like a civil engineering route, they were more than happy to support me with that. But again, I didn't feel that was the right move for me either. So that's when I looked to the Open University to see what degrees they were offering, because it gave me the flexibility of working, studying at home, and sort of managing my life as well at the same time as doing everything.
I did.
So, yeah.
I did an Open University. Yeah, I did an Open University management course. But we'll swap back to urology stories shortly. So at that time you were working in the council, yes?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, this isn't for me. I don't want to go to the film degree or the American arts degree. I want to look at science. So what went on in your head when you thought, right, I'm going to go and do a degree with the Open University? You said it was a general science degree.
Yeah.
So when did biology come into that?
So your first year on the Open University degree is just a general, getting yourself into science, the sort of principles that are suitable for all sort of disciplines. It's only when you get to your second and third year equivalent, because obviously I spread my degree out over 7 years, so it's a bit different, but your sort of level 2, level 3 modules that you're picking then become a bit more specific. And because I'd picked so many specific modules that were biology sort of related, I was then able to claim a biology degree at the end of that, if that makes sense. So other people, they might have chosen other sort of module disciplines, so they could claim a different degree at the end, but it just gives you that flexibility while you're studying, that you haven't committed something at the start. I could also have gone right through the degree having a general degree as well. I didn't need to specialise in biology if that's not what I wanted to do. So
so you're sitting in the council, you've got your biology-based degree, and then is it one day you're sitting looking at the Fife Courier, and there's a job in there that says, "Oh, that looks quite interesting."
Well, no, I was in year 4 out of 7 for my degree, and that's when I came across the IBMS. I really wanted to find out more about the profession and getting into that sort of field. And at that point, that's when I realised, there's an accredited degree system. This degree that I'm currently doing is not going to be accredited. So I was looking up what my next steps would be once I do graduate. What sort of experience I'm going to start needing to get. So I contacted my local lab to see about volunteering and just start to get the wheels in motion, so that when I do come to get my degree accredited, I'm kind of in the right place, if you know what I mean.
Right, okay. So the degree that you were on, was that enough for them to accept you in the role in the lab? Before you, how did you get into the lab? So tell me about how you filled in that application form and what went through your head. Do you remember what you did?
Right, so I contacted them. Myred is my...
we know Myred.
We know Myred. She was very supportive, getting me in, getting a bit of experience, and it started off as just a couple of hours. Just observation, really. Got shown around the lab, and that was great. And then once I contacted her again to see if there is any sort of opportunities for a full day, and this is all on a voluntary basis. I just put my name in, just basically saying, please let me come in, let me see, let me help. So they found hours that they could get me in to show me around the lab and get me starting to work with the CSW team, clinical support work team.
Yep.
So that's kind of how I went from there. The timing was pretty good because within 6 months, one of my colleagues left, she retired. So a part-time post became available and I was able to sort of apply for that.
Okay. Was that
and that's
a part-time biomedical support worker job?
Yeah, the support worker post, yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I got into employment, as it were, in the actual team. So that was the first step in the door sort of thing. But obviously that makes it so much easier to then do everything else you need to do to work your way up.
Okay.
So yeah, I was with the clinical support worker team for must be about 4 years. So I really started to sort of learn the craft, as it were. Really felt very confident in that team. And they were great.
And during that time, what happened to your studies? So you did your Open University or part of the Open University degree, and Myra Ed's supporting you, and you're in a working lab environment. How did you make that conversion over?
Okay, so I finished my degree in 2017, so 7 years studying.
Okay.
I then applied for the accreditation, and then it came back that I needed 6 top-up modules, yes.
Top-ups.
So we all love top-ups, don't we? I was quite lucky that out of the 6 that I needed to do, 2 of them could be combined into the one course. So it was only 4 top-up courses that I needed to do. So over 2 years, I worked away at that. We did distance learning with Ulster University for that. So that was my next step, was to get those top-ups completed.
Okay.
That was then complete, and I applied for the registration portfolio, which I then completed as a CSW. So yeah, that's kind of how it's always one thing after another just to get where you want to be.
Of course. And so does that bring us close to today?
Yeah, because I finished my registration portfolio in January last year.
Oh, well done.
So that was me officially sort of registered with the HCPC, and then come July, a position opened up for a biomedical scientist. So I was able to apply for that. I already had my registration in place, and I already had a lot of work experience with the CSW team, so I felt in a really good position to apply for that at the time. So yeah, so that's me a year in the post now. So
that's a year in, fully qualified at band?
Band 5 I am at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well done. Absolutely fantastic. So you are a biomedical scientist? Yes,
officially, on paper.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Can I take you back to, so when you went to the lab, was it specifically microbiology that interested you, or were there other opportunities there?
I had contacted CellPath. They have a department in Fife as well. They weren't taking on volunteers at the time. I think they were quite understaffed, and I can understand the sort of pressure of that. But then I got given Myra's name, so that's when I contacted her. But to be truthful, like even throughout my whole degree, microbiology is something that I was drawn to. It's just always something that I've enjoyed, I would say, out of everything. So I was very flexible about which department I ended up in as a biomedical scientist, but I'm just very lucky that I've been able to get where I am in the place that I want to be. Yeah.
What advice would you give anybody that was starting this journey? Because you've had a long journey.
Yeah, I think knowing exactly what's required makes a big difference. But as well, if it's something that you really want to do, like, don't give up on it either. Like you said, it has taken a long time for me to get to where I am. And in that time, I've got married, I've got a house, I've got 2 children as well. So I'm juggling a lot of things. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. So the opportunities are there for you. You just need to know what it is you need to do and just do it, basically.
Okay. And in terms of an information resource from the IBMS, because you mentioned that during your analysis of what it is you might want to do, you found the IBMS, did you find them just like online, labs, type in?
Yeah, I think it was an NHS careers page that I'd looked at.
All right, okay, yeah.
So, and then they'd listed scientists under that, and then that's when I think there had been mention of the IBMS as the professional body for it. So that's where I ended up finding the IBMS. I was able to find all the resources there. So
are you going to join the local branch then?
I don't know. I'll need to dig out some information about that. I am a member of the SMA, the Scottish Microbiology Association, as well. So I'm hopefully going to get along to the first meeting that I've had in November this year. So it is good to go to these events and sort of spread your wings a wee bit with this sort of thing, get yourself involved.
Absolutely. I'm still a member of the Scottish Microbiology Association. They take their £10 off me religiously every year. I don't think I've ever been to a meeting for about well over a decade. You'll enjoy that though. They can be quite heavy events. So pace yourself on the Friday.
Yeah.
That would be my advice. So, on a day-to-day basis, if you were going to explain to somebody out there what it is you actually do, and bearing in mind that I'm an ex-bacteriologist, so you're not speaking to a bacteriologist, you're speaking to somebody who's listening to this on a bus or something. Mm-hmm. So what does your job entail?
Right, so we look at sort of culture plates. So if a sample's been processed, if somebody's suspecting a bacterial infection, plates will be inoculated. It's like a jelly, and you're expecting to see bacteria growing on these plates the next day or following whatever incubation is required. So we look at the colonies, we decide what follow-up tests are required to identify them. And if it's a clinically significant organism, we'll then do antibiotic sensitivity testing on it if required, so that we can then inform the medics exactly what sort of treatments might be beneficial to the patients. So a lot of our work is reading plates, and especially in NHS 5, we're quite manual with those process, the reading process anyway. So there's a lot of plates to get through. But we do also have a lot of machines to help us as well with some of the testing.
Oh, yes.
So,
we like machines in microbiology sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
During the pandemic, what happened? Were you there during the pandemic?
I was a clinical support worker at the time, so I was doing a lot of the intake of the COVID samples. We were lucky to be able to take on staff as part of a COVID team, so they were sort of involved in that side of it as well. So although I was involved in COVID processing, I was kind of keeping front of house going as well, because I was by this point quite experienced in other things like serology intake as well. So yeah, I would sort of keep that side of things going along while the COVID team were booking in the molecular samples.
And Fife were doing a lot of, if I remember, Fife were doing a lot of point of care testing as well.
Yes, yeah.
Were you out in the shed in the car park?
Oh, I was not. No, we do a lot of testing for when point of care samples become invalid, and we found invalid samples to be quite frequent. It's a learning curve for everybody, but nursing staff aren't in the same mindset that lab staff necessarily are. So when they're operating these machines, it's not always quite as easy to explain our sort of way of thinking to them. So things like air bubbles, it might not seem like an important thing, but it is quite important to get the result to work. So we ended up getting a lot of invalid samples back up to the lab to test as well. So it's trying to manage that as well. It was a very hectic time.
No, yeah. Well, yeah, I was there too, well, not there, but back in our own lab. Yeah. If you think now a wee bit about where you want to go, so you could argue, I'm just in the door. Leave me alone. I don't want to talk about the next 5 years.
It definitely feels like that after I've just spent the last 10 years of my life studying.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Have you got any immediate plans for what might happen next?
It's all guns a-blazing, to be honest. So I'm now working on my specialist portfolio. So I'm about a third of the way down with that. So it's not bad progress after a year anyway, but there's a lot to learn, especially when you're first starting. Even as a CSW, you think you know quite a lot, but then when you get in the job, you're like, oh, there's actually a lot more to this than it appeared. So every day is a learning day just now for me. So you do go home very tired. So portfolio is a lot of hard work to do alongside that. But I've been in this mindset for 10 years about keeping going, getting it done, if you know what I mean. So it's difficult to put the brakes on sometimes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my plan, is to get the specialist portfolio done.
Are you going to stop there?
I would like to consider possibly doing a master's. That might be an opportunity for me to take a breath in between, though.
Okay.
Once I get my specialist, I might just try and give myself a bit of time to sort of recuperate and then take on the master's, because I've heard that's quite a challenge as well. Especially a lot of people do it distance learning, so there is that sort of commitment alongside your work as well. So it's just trying to find that balance. I think it's difficult at times.
Do you have a need to fulfill the art side of your life?
I do that anyway. In my free time.
Tell us what you do. What do you do?
Well, I love playing video games. It's a passion of mine. So yeah, I'm always playing something or have something on the go. I've been watching a lot of Netflix, a lot of books, reading. So yeah, I do like a lot of that from the past. I've never given it up really. So it's my life is very busy with fitting all these things in, but I somehow manage, and I manage not to crack up.
Are you going to make a film about bacteriology someday?
I don't think I have the tech skills for that. Maybe I could put like ideas on a bit of paper, but I certainly don't have the ability to do that. But
right, okay. Yeah. Would you say your story is? Have you spoken to any colleagues about how they've managed to get to where you've got to? So presumably you went on this journey with a number of people. Some people would just want to stay where they are, quite happy in a support worker role, or some other trainee biomedical scientists. Does your journey differ from any of these people?
I think, having been a CSW for so long, clinical support worker, we have quite a few of us that are actually going through this process. Our department are really supportive of people that are looking to make that journey. There are others that are very happy in their role. It's a good team, but it's good for the people coming in to get this experience. And I think, unless you have gone down the accredited route at an accredited university with the placement, your chances of getting in without your sort of clinical support experience is quite difficult, I think, or I would imagine. Yeah. So it's great that my workplace in particular are really supportive of people that are looking to go through that. So we do have a mix, people that are looking to make that jump up, and then others that are happy in their current roles. So
did you look at any of the options that might be available? Because there are some. I mean, you could have, for example, dropped out and did a full-time, or the remainder of a full-time degree with the credits that you'd built up. Did you look at any of those options?
My problem was, by the time I realised what I wanted to do, I already had a house and kids. So I had a financial strain in that respect. So pulling out of uni, pulling out of work to then do full-time university, it just wasn't an option for me. And And it was a bit of a risk as well to do that, because you wouldn't be guaranteed a job at the end of that.
Right, okay.
Whereas I had a job at the time. So that the Open University was what gave me that flexibility to keep going as I was. I'd even considered if things with the labs didn't go well, that I could then do teacher training. That would have been my next step had I not gone down this route. So, because I knew that would involve a year of university, and that would have obviously, I would have had to take the leap then. But I was just really lucky that the labs, I've managed to get in where I wanted to be.
No,
so.
it's a really good story. Thanks. If you had to explain to somebody about what you like about your job, how would you describe that?
I think what I like about it is that every day is different. There's enough stability in it that you know what you're coming into, but there's enough variety that it keeps it interesting, it keeps it exciting for you. Especially at the moment, I'm in the heat of the training, so one day I'm on this bench, the next day I'm on this bench, and I'm constantly learning. And I love learning. I mean, that must be obvious for how long I've been sort of at this.
Absolutely.
So this is a great sort of profession as a whole for learning, constantly upping your skills, taking on new machines, having to learn how these work. And yeah, I think that's what I like about it, is it always keeps you on your toes. You never feel like you know everything in it. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you had to say to somebody, the IBMS clearly has been a source of info for you in this process, do you think the IBMS does enough for people like you?
It's a tricky one to say, because personally, I'm a very determined person. I do have a lot of motivation for my goals. I think some people might be put off by some of the, I say obstacles, but the requirements that you have to go through if you haven't gone through an accredited route.
Okay.
So if you've studied for 4 years at a university, to find out that your degree is not accredited, to be faced with potentially another couple of years doing top-up modules, it must put people off. So I think the resources that are available online, and they're very clear about exactly what it is you need. My worry is that the IBMS are losing out on some great people, just because of the extra work that's involved to get where they want you to be. I know some of the top-up modules that I was requested to do, I could maybe contend that maybe I didn't need to do them, but I didn't want to go through the appeals process. I was already so far anyway. So I was happy to do them, but I do worry that some people will be put off coming into the profession because of some of these requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you got any funny stories about the lab before because we're coming up to the end? You'll be glad to know. Funny stories that we can broadcast.
That we can broadcast. Oh gosh. You've put me on the spot now, because I'm not a very funny person. Right. Well, one other piece of advice that might be very helpful for anybody who has the misfortune to deal with stool samples is that it's always important to make sure, if you are leaving them on the bench overnight, to make sure all the caps are sealed, and that there is some weighted pressure on the top of said containers.
Yes.
Because we have had an incident in the past where it has made the walls.
Yes. And
so, yeah.
I too have been there.
Yes, yeah.
Right, well, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Siobhan, and hearing about your story. I hope it's been useful for you to articulate it. And thanks very much. And we'll see everybody next time. Bye.